multiple fronts, and those forces who naturally would have been predisposed to serve as the cavalry in the defense of free expression were either nowhere to be found or quickly retreated.
PEN is an organization dedicated to creative rights and First Amendment rights for artists. And they fight the fight for these people. And I am a PEN member, and I'm a PEN Award winner. PEN should have leaped to my defense. I asked PEN for help. Got vague emails back from people. The contention of the board was that there was no sign of any kind of government pressure here, which is absurd. You know, I defy them to show me an example of more government pressure than was brought to bear on the path to 9/11.
It was an ominous, obvious attack on the First Amendment, and particularly within that First Amendment on artists. Who should have been speaking out, regardless of politics? PEN should have been speaking out. I didn't hear anything. The Directors Guild of America should have been speaking out. I didn't hear anything. The Writers Guild of America should have been speaking out. I didn't hear anything. The Screen Actors Guild should have been speaking out. I didn't hear anything.
And not any of those organizations came forward and defended him or defended this film and its right to exist. Just disgusts me.
The silence of the left over this issue of censorship was absolutely deafening. I mean, these are people who claim that George Bush has destroyed the Constitution because he's locked up some terrorists that were caught on the field of battle that would saw your head off in an instant. This is destroying the Constitution. But stopping a film because an ex-president doesn't like the criticism of him in it, that doesn't even get on their radar.
Participant Pictures, which have made some terrific movies. Good Night and Good Luck, which is about McCarthyism and blacklisting and suppression of freedoms. And Syriana and others, Inconvenient Truth. They actually, at one point, were going to come aboard the path to 9/11. Now, when the controversy erupted, they released a statement in support of the miniseries and of our rights. And that statement, however, was pulled down, you know, like within hours.
And they had come to the editing room and had seen the film, and they were, lack of a better term, blown away by it. Well, they were blogging on how good the picture was, apparently. And the ex-vice president got word of that. His name, Mr. Gore. And he demanded that they remove that blog site because, remember, you're having lunch with Bill Clinton next week. It was like, whoa, they could do that too.
And so they pulled it. And these are the people who made Good Night and Good Luck about the evils of McCarthyism.
See any irony in that?
Big time irony.
Nothing is more distressing than the deafening silence from Hollywood on a selective basis. The participant film withdrew its support under pressure from various people, not a surprise.
There's no way Hollywood would have allowed a movie that was being censored by the Bush administration to go unprotected or unsupported, correct?
That would be amazing if that happened. Yeah, I highly doubt.
Despite all this, the path to 9/11 still appeared on track to air, even if in its Clinton-induced censored form. But then, at the very last moment, came threats from American Airlines to pull their advertising from ABC and perhaps even sue because of what could be argued was the only substantive factual error in the film. Mohammed Atta, who would fly the second jet into the World Trade Center that day, is depicted as being allowed to pass through check-in at an American Airlines counter in Boston, despite having a cap warning come up on his file. The reality is that Atta's cap warning occurred in Portland, Maine, earlier in the day when he checked in with a regional airline that had a partnership with American.
If I had to go back and do it again, I mean, I'd change it, I'd correct it, but the essence of what happened is what happened. And apparently, it was American Airlines. It wasn't an American Airlines flight that he originally got on in Portland. It was his connection in Boston, and we didn't show that. And American Airlines got upset. And American Airlines, my understanding is, got upset because the Clinton people went to them and said, see this?
By Sunday, September 10th, the scheduled air date of Night 1, there was still great doubt among even those highest in the film's leadership structure as to whether, after all of this, the path to 9/11 would ever be seen publicly at all. For the film's director, tracking its status across the globe was a lot like charting a New Year's Eve celebration.
I was at home waiting, and the producers and the executives, and no one could tell me. I don't think they knew if it was going to be aired or not. And the only time that I knew that it was going to be for sure is when it started airing in New Zealand. And I was talking to my friend in New Zealand saying, is it on the air there? And he says, yes, it's playing right now. I was like, oh. Then I called a friend in Australia a few hours later because it was started over that way. And yes, is it airing? And then Canada, and then across the East Coast. And once it was in New York, I was like, yes, it's going. They actually put it out there. That was amazing. That was amazing.
On September 10th, 2006, The Path to 9/11, in its edited state, did air, with disclaimers, worldwide and throughout the United States. ABC News ran a special after Night 1 on the controversy, which seemed to largely vindicate the so-called burger scene that their parent company had severely edited. Over the 2 nights, about 25 million viewers tuned in for the miniseries, which is a huge number in today's fragmented media universe. Oddly, once people had actually seen the film, the controversy that had roared for the previous 2 weeks went almost eerily silent. That is until Bill Clinton was asked a related question suggested by emailers on Fox News Channel by Chris Wallace.
I understand that hindsight is always 20/20.
No, let's talk about it.
But the question is, why didn't you do more, connect the dots, and put them out of business?
All right, let's talk about it. I will answer all those things on the merits, but first I want to talk about the context in which this arises. I'm being asked this on the Fox network. ABC just had a right-wing conservative running their little pathway to 9/11, falsely claiming it was based on the 9/11 Commission report, with 3 things asserted against me directly contradicted by the 9/11 Commission report.
It was very surreal to have a former president mocking a film that I directed, and it also kind of confirmed how important this thing is.
When the president reacted in that way to Chris Wallace and then starts to refer to me specifically, I know that we got it right.
There is not a living soul in the world who thought Osama bin Laden had anything to do with Black Hawk Down, or was paying any attention to it, or even knew Al-Qaeda was a going concern in October of '93.
I understand.
No, wait. Don't tell me this. You asked me, why did I do more to bin Laden? There was not a living soul. All the people who now criticize me wanted to leave the next day. You brought this up, so you get an answer. But you can't
I'm perfectly happy to.
All right. Secondly,
bin Laden says.
But bin Laden may have said
bin Laden says, but it showed the weakness of the United States.
But it would have shown the weakness if we'd left right away. But he wasn't involved in that. That's just a bunch of bull.
Yeah, that's the Bill Clinton I know. That's the Bill Clinton I worked with for 2 years. He has almost an O.J. Simpson-like inability to blame himself for anything. I mean, he cannot accept criticism or accept reality.
I've known Bill Clinton for a number of years, and I've always liked him. But every now and then he lets his temper get a hold of him, and that's not his best side. And I think he let his temper get a hold of him on this one.
Well, one of the main apologies for Clinton's administration has been we didn't know 9/11 was going to happen. But by the time they had an opportunity to kill or capture Osama bin Laden, American troops had been attacked by Al-Qaeda in Yemen in 1992, in Somalia in 1993 and 94, in Saudi Arabia in 1995 and 1996, and 2 of our embassies had been destroyed in East Africa in August of 1998. When you wrap all of those attacks and the potential of a WMD attack in America, how much more impetus do you need to take out the author of all of those things.
To the extent that Clinton didn't do enough, I can understand that. But to deny that he didn't do enough, that I can't understand. Because it's clear he didn't, and he's claiming he did.
From what I was told by our consultants and the information that I was provided, it could have been a lot more intense on Bill Clinton and the Clinton administration.
Absolutely. It was too easy in the Clinton administration. And having seen the entire miniseries and having talked to Cyrus Narasta about it, I told Cyrus that, if anything, he went light on the Clinton administration.
By the way, that was the consensus of the people who had seen the research, people at ABC who were working and had looked at the annotations and looking at the supporting material. They said, that Clinton actually got a break.
Since its controversial airing, the historical record has been at least as kind to the path to 9/11 as the film was to the Clinton administration.
Michael Scheuer coming forward right after the broadcast and saying the core of the movie is irrefutably true is vindication. Stephen Emerson going on national television and saying the path to 9/11 is 100% accurate is vindication. Buzz Patterson coming forward and saying that he'd witnessed at least 5 instances in which Sandy Berger had stopped or gotten in the way of operations is vindication. Bill Clinton going on national television within 2 weeks of the broadcast and completely changing his story and saying, I tried to get bin Laden, I tried a bunch of times, when in the lead up to broadcast he was saying that no such scenes ever happened, is vindication.
One of the most dramatic vindications of the path to 9/11 relates to the now overwhelming evidence that links the '93 World Trade Center bombing with 9/11, which was the cornerstone for the film's entire premise.
I mean, some of the people who attacked the movie basically said that we were wrong, that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed had nothing to do with the '93 attack, that we had made a mistake or that didn't happen, etc. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was captured and interrogated, and apparently the documents of his interrogation were released long after the movie aired, where he indicated in apparently minute detail his participation in the '93 bombing.
Despite all this, Disney and ABC have totally abandoned the film. ABC immediately killed a set plan for another project where Narasta was to follow the story to the war in Afghanistan. Disney did nothing to promote the path to 9/11 for the Emmy Awards, and it still got nominated in 7 categories, ironically winning for Best Editing, while being seemingly snubbed for political reasons in the Best Miniseries category. But the ultimate disgrace has come in the form of Disney refusing to release the DVD, which should have come out in early 2007. The reason? Reportedly because Disney feared potentially derailing Hillary Clinton's once invincible presidential bandwagon.
I was told the person to talk to was Mark Pedowitz at ABC, who was president of one of the divisions of the network. I'd call him up periodically, and I felt like, I'm sort of not being giving any straight answers here. And then, I was persistent. So finally he said to me, if Hillary weren't running for president, this wouldn't be a problem.
Thanks to this man, Tom Borelli, Disney being willing to throw away seemingly easy money apparently to protect politicians has not gone unnoticed by Disney shareholders.
So our mutual fund owns Disney shares. We want to try to pry the release of the DVD from Disney so they can make a profit and also educate the public.
Bootleg copies of this DVD, the uncut version, have been selling on eBay for $500. There's a huge audience. I think they could make $100 million off this DVD easily.
Yeah, it's a waste of shareholder money. In fact, the chairman's not really conducting his fiduciary responsibility to his shareholders. His duty is not to, bow and be afraid and hide in a corner because of letters from the Senate or letters from Clinton's lawyers or because of political activism. That's not his job. His job is to sell a product, and his product had a good market potential. He's not supposed to voluntarily take a loss because he's afraid.
The death of a president, where a sitting president is assassinated in a movie in documentary style. There was some controversy that erupted over that movie. It was released, it played theatrically. I can go down the block to my Blockbuster and get it, and I can watch it. You You cannot do that with the path to 9/11.
In March of 2008, Borelli put his mouth where his money is, attending the Disney shareholder meeting and being the first to publicly confront Disney's head Bob Iger over the censoring of the path to 9/11. In audio from that meeting, Iger claims that putting out a DVD with almost no costs associated with it is not in the company's business interest.
We reached a business decision. We simply believed that putting out the DVD would not be in the best interest of the company, and we stand by that decision.
And why not sell it to another company that wants to sell it?
As I said, I'm not aware of anybody having made us a formal
you the
proposal.
memo?
I think it would be not in the best interest of the other people attending this meeting for you to show me that right now, but I'm sure there are people that you can give it to that will pass that along to me.
Shockingly, there was no effort by the Disney people to confirm Borelli's evidence of interest by Lionsgate to purchase the film, which, though denied publicly by the company, is seen here and is something that was confirmed by this documentary. Borelli thinks he knows what is really going on and has offered to buy the film himself, vowing not to give up this fight.
A simple Google search, you'll find that Robert Iger, the CEO of Disney, has given campaign contributions to Hillary Clinton as far back as 2000. Since then, he's given a number of different times, and so has the Disney Political Action Committee. So you basically can say that Disney is supporting Hillary Clinton and has been since 2000. I mean, there may be a political reason why they don't want to sell this DVD. Well, if he wants to give his personal money, that's fine. He's able to do that. But at the same time, he can't use Disney as a tool for his own political agenda. That would be wrong. We will continue to pressure Disney through a variety of ways, and hopefully we can get a lot of shareholders or fellow shareholders to ask the same question, and also people who are concerned about the First Amendment and concerned about liberty to pressure Disney to sell the DVD.
Bob Iger was one of many who refused an interview request for this project. In fact, just like every Democrat mentioned in this documentary, every person in the massive management structure of the path to 9/11 either refused to speak to us or was prevented by Disney from doing so. Disney is now in the bizarre position of seeing those that defend their film, one that they once thought was one of the best things that they had ever done and worthy of being shown annually, as the enemy.
But what happens here basically is ABC is owned by Disney. Disney's the parent company, and the orders came down from on high. Nobody says anything. And that's unfortunate. But the parent company had decided essentially that they were going to take a dive on this movie. And obviously the Clintons were more important than the truth.
Providing a rare peek into what was really happening inside the corporate walls, Steve McPherson, president of ABC Entertainment, wrote this telling statement in an internal ABC email.
In this email, Steve McPherson says some very interesting things. One is, I know no one associated with the film had a political agenda and just wanted to tell the story and raise awareness. And boy, is that true. And he says here, unfortunately, politicians decided to take the focus off the threat to America and turn it on themselves, which actually does more to bolster the environment reflected in the movie than anything we could write or film. That said, I'm proud of the work and glad we stuck to our guns. I hope the intent of the message was not lost in all the BS. And I know he wants the DVD out. Unfortunately, he was overruled by the parent company. And I think this reflects his feelings and the feelings of a lot of people at ABC.
Despite being banned from public dissemination, the impact of the path to 9/11 is still being felt in many ways, perhaps even in the 2008 election cycle, which saw the Clintons shocked to discover that after numerous episodes like this controversy, their reservoir of goodwill with the news media had suddenly dried up, and the media's willingness to clean up after their messes, at least at the expense of their new favorite, Barack Obama, had totally evaporated.
Some liberals in the media who staunchly supported the Clintons during the various events of 1992 to 2000, 2001, I think are saying, you know, I just don't want to fight those fights anymore. I don't want to have to carry this baggage and try to justify it anymore. Why don't we get this nice new Barack Obama in there, or somebody that's not going to carry that baggage and that's not going to give us these unpleasant episodes.
As for Obama, soon after being conceded the Democratic nomination, he exhibited the exact type of ignorance about what led to 9/11 that the film had hoped to prevent. In an interview coincidentally with ABC News, Obama claimed that the response to the '93 World Trade Center bombing was just fine, and even used it as justification for giving terror suspects at Guantanamo habeas corpus rights.
Let's take the example of Guantanamo. What we know is that in previous terrorist attacks, for example, the first attack against the World Trade Center, we were able to arrest those responsible, put them on trial. They are currently in U.S. prisons, incapacitated.
Not pointed out by ABC was that Obama was flat wrong on the facts. One of the suspects died a free man in 2007 in Saudi Arabia. Another was last seen in Iraq under the protection of Saddam Hussein. And Khalid Sheikh Mohammed confessed to his role long after planning and executing 9/11 in, of all places, Guantanamo. So what is the legacy of the path to 9/11? Is it doomed to be permanently banished to the notorious Disney vault with other now politically incorrect titles? Perhaps. If so, that would be a grave injustice to free speech, the truth, and to the victims of 9/11. Also lost may have been our last best chance for the American public to learn and remember the true lessons of that fateful day.
This was a chance to reach support of the American people that might not be reached any other way. And this whole debate on the Clinton legacy distracted from that, and I wish it hadn't.
In an attempt to protect their legacy, I just saw people doing things that were so wrong and unfair. And I frankly learned too much making this movie. And it was frightening.
I think an opportunity to squarely put blame where blame was deserved, that the 9/11 Commission refused to do, was lost. He was an effort to really correct justice and correct the historical record. And number two, he was also an effort to focus the issue on really where it belonged. Not on U.S. actions, but on the actions of radical Islam, on Al-Qaeda, on bin Laden. That threat still exists.
I personally believe, based on my experiences at the White House and in my 2 years there, that more than anybody else, President Bill Clinton led us down the path to 9/11.
Osama bin Laden is alive today because President Clinton, Sandy Berger, and Richard Clarke refused to kill him when they had the opportunity to do so.
On most issues,